bor in Bing William Ato in Juba Malatori am yo in Bing William Ato in Benti wala kwaju wow in Bing William Ato in Malkal wala Pinyaram in Bing William
Hello, good evening, good morning, good night, wherever you guys are. My name is Abraham Edmund Yakani. I'm one of the next media hosts this evening. My guest in the studio with me is Mr. Edmund Yakani. It's been a few weeks. We have not hosted him to update us what is going on in our country. And for those, and today he's here with us in the studio to give us a highlight about the thing going on in our country, and also too, for those of you who are watching in Clubhouse, listening in to Clubhouse, and also watching in Facebook and YouTube, please hear the this show while we will continue with our discussion. Edmund, welcome. Happy Friday night to you guys. I think it's 8 o'clock p.m. in Juba time. How are you doing, sir? It's been a while. I hope everything's going on in the capital city of Juba and around South Sudan. So give us a little bit about things, and then we can go to our discussion this evening. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. The first rain of 2024 have started as we speak now. It's raining, so this is the first rain of 2024 that we have witnessed today. That's how Juba is now as I speak with you. So the internet may be disturbed because of the rain, but it's a blessing for starting 2024. And of course, the city is busy with the politics of propaganda, rumors, proposals. Juba keep us engaged. We are so engaged. So some will come from another point, no election. Some will say extension of 5 years, extension of 3 years, return back to the setup of the government like in 2012 before the 2013 crisis. So Juba is busy. But of course, in other side of the town, people are a bit also concerned about this new merging deadly violence in Western Baragazal versus Warab, Western Baragazal versus Lake, Western, what do you call them? Warab versus Lakes, Warab versus Western Baragazal, Warab versus Abyei. Those deadly violence is making some people in Juba concerned, but otherwise, we are okay, busy, meetings, lobbying, pushing, trying to build consensus for nation building. That's how we are in Juba.
Absolutely. Wow, it's getting rain. It's rain already. And I am not clearing my farm, my school farm yet. I cut down all the tree in my farm area, but it's still not been clearing. I thought that the rain will be starting around May or April or June, but it's starting already. It's the time for me to hurry up to clean up on my farm before the heavy rain come in. Because I'm doing my farm work this year in South Sudan. So that would be a good. Actually, the farm that I'm working on is for the school farm. So okay. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for updating us for that. Let us deep into our conversation. Couple of weeks ago, Edmund, we seen you. You were very engaging with our leaders. I see you meet with President Salva Kiir Mayardit, and then after you finish meeting with President Salva Kiir Mayardit, you met with the first Vice President Dr. Riek Machar. And after you finish meeting with the first Vice President Dr. Riek Machar, and then you met with the Vice President Salva Kiir, and then after you met with them, and then you met with Vice President Taban Dengai. Can you tell Genovian South Sudanese why are you engaging with the top leaders, our leaders in the country? Can you give us the highlight what the meeting about? So go ahead. Thank you very
much. Thank you very much. As you read out the list. In the list also, I met with Her Excellency Vice President Mama Rebecca Nyandeng, the chair of Gender Youth Cluster. So I'll be left next week. I'll be meeting Vice President Dr. Wani Iga, the chairperson of Economic Cluster, as my last meeting. And that will be followed up by other meetings with religious leaders, with the spiritual leaders, with the youth, with the women. The objective of this meeting, it is a bit of a track 2 in terms of peace mediation, what do you call a homegrown negotiation for narrowing the gaps that exist among our leaders and taking responsibility that we start nurturing a spirit of compromise, a spirit of acting genuinely and honestly, a spirit of giving priority for country stability and really reducing tensions and responding to concerns of citizens or mistrust and lack of confidence citizens have on the looming election of December 2024, which have very strong 5 preconditions that, if I can name them: unification of forces, constitutional making, population census, open political and civic space, national funding, and ensuring that also the election is non-violent. So those are some of the preconditions. So I started with His Excellency President, and it was an honest discussion with His Excellency President on hardcore issues. If I can describe it like it is a Stephen Shegg of BBC talk. It's a really hard talk. So, but we reached some consensus in some areas in terms of like how to move. So in summary, without wasting time of speaking for each, but I'm ready to answer questions later on, we can come for each meeting. In summary first, we have reached a point that as we are facing elections looming in December 2024, creating a conducive environment for conduct of free, fair, credible, non-violent elections is very important. But for us to meet those standards for elections, there are some prerequisites that require a nurturing or renewal of commitment and political pledge for them to be delivered. One is unification of forces. We have all agreed that you can't go for elections with more than one army. Secondly, we have agreed on issues of constitutional making process. But this does not mean that we ignore the conduct of population census, because populations have to go concurrently with this process and takes time. Even constitution takes time, but it has to go concurrently with this process. But also standards of maintaining open and political space in which every political actor and every activist, every media have equal benefits of open political and civic space without any form of restriction or discrimination that we have seen in the past. So those are some of the areas that we reach consensus with them. To give a highlight on each of the meeting, with His Excellency President, I've even moved further questioning the intention of shifting the mediation with the whole ARC groups to Nairobi. What's the intention behind it? And I've raised to him the concerns of the non-signatories, because I got an opportunity of speaking to him as a president. And we're able to deliberate on this particular issue. And he say, of course, everything is now based on William Ruto. He requested William Ruto and asked, what is the intention of bringing them very far from Rome, and why are you not convinced with Rome? And remember, you have what we call the spiritual retreat, which resulted to the establishment of the St. Gideon mediation. And I asked him also whether they're starting from square one or they're starting where St. Gideon is, and what role can St. Gideon do with the Kenyan mediation. From an honest background and sincere background, His Excellency told me he feels let the talks comes close to the region, and his aim of having it comes close to the region is that so that it minimizes the cost associated with that. But also he wishes St. Gideon will be part of the mediation. And he told me honestly, Kenya is reaching out to St. Gideon. Kenya will reach out to the whole ARC groups one by one for consultation. So it is not a process in hurry. It's a process that Kenya have to nurture also acceptance from each either of the group. That's why he as a president, he allowed President William Ruto to consult the whole ARC groups and listen to their concerns and respond how Kenya will assure the concerns that were raised. So those are some of the things we have discussed with His Excellency President. And I push him a lot on issues of funding and the delay of other prerequisites. For instance, the unification of the forces, the constitutional making process, and the issue of refugees and IDPs repatriation. But of course, issue of IDPs and refugees repatriation also have discussed this merging deadly communal violence, which discourage IDPs and refugees to return to their area of choice or the area of origin. And we've seen the development in Kajukeji, which have made quite a number of people returning back to camp because of the insecurity in Kajukeja. I brought up those, and of course, situation in Duk, in Abyei, and what is happening in between Warap and Baragazal. I brought that. So he was able to assure me that as a president, that yes, there are issues of trust and confidence in rolling out some of the prerequisites. So I push him, and also I say, you need to engage with your vice president so that you can reach consensus. But also I push that if we are building political parties dialogue, let it be inclusive in a manner that you don't undermine any single party. Let all parties come to the table. And of course, within my discussion with His Excellency President, and the same thing with First Vice President, I raised to them, if they fail to reach consensus on a proper framework of holding elections in a democratic and peaceful manner, there's no any exit strategy for them. The only exit strategy is technocratic government through an inclusive, multiple political parties and stakeholders consensus, national consensus on how to exit from a transition. So some of the areas are hard talk, some of the areas will reach consensus. So what, as a result of my meeting with His Excellency President, that I harvest is that he agreed he will meet with His Excellency First Vice President. And I think you're aware they met on Monday and they discussed quite a number of issues, including the development between the Twitch and the Ngok Denka, because I challenged him over the presidential order. If it's not enforced, going to be problematic. So they met on Monday and the meeting was lengthy. And I also remember he called for a political ruling party, his party bureau meeting after development that happened in Western Baragazal and Warap, where even people in uniform, national security, military, police senior officers were killed in Ju River area. So he also called for that. But also I told him I'm going to meet Dr. Riak and I will try to continue nurture. So His Excellency have asked, keep on moving, keep on doing this lobby. Maybe your lobby may nurture a trust and confidence. We always don't believe on ourselves. We believe for external, but he told me like, keep on doing this work. Our doors are open. So I moved the next meeting to His Excellency, Vice President Dr. Riak. I met Dr. Riak, almost the same discussion. And of course, His Excellency, First Vice President, insisted that certain preconditions are essential. Preconditions around the unification of forces, constitution-making process to commission the election, and the issue of population census for demarcation of constituency is very important. So also he raised that. And of course, he raised that he accepted that they will meet with His Excellency President, which of course, as I said, they met on Monday, which for me is a very good outcome of the lobby. I've been moving in between them. But also they will continue having a meeting of presidency. That's part of it. And I move next to the other vice president. Other vice president, almost the same issues we discussed with them, but we reach consensus on also area around, and this is also concerned with His Excellency President, First Vice President, other vice presidents, the issue of national funding. I told them the appetite of international community putting money into the elections is not there. And there are so many priorities at the international level. You can see Ukraine is an issue, Gaza is an issue, there's other priorities. And also some of those governments that we wish to see from them money, it is having their own internal crisis that they need to respond to. So, and that's why today, at least, there's a passing of a budget for the National Election Commission, for the National Constitution Review Commission, for the Political Parties Council, and the National Bureau of Statistics. And at least with the elections, I've come out very clear that out of requested money by the Electoral Commission for the conduct of the election, which is 713 billion SSP, the Council of Ministers today passed 107 billion SSP, which is around 15% of the required budget, and the Minister of Finance assured in the Council of Ministers that they will fundraise that money quickly. And then the rest of the 600 billion will be considered in the new financial year for 2024-2025 financial year. And remember also during the budget of 2023-2024, there's some money for Electoral Commission for operations, which is paying like outstanding dues of rent, staff salaries, and also buying computers. So plus this one, something is a bit good docket. But if that money can be actualized, and maybe that may raise the appetite of some friends to come and provide maybe in-kind support. And as I speak now, there's an in-kind support going on with UNMIS in the Electoral Commission, in the Constitutional Review Commission, in the Political Parties Council. There's already experts which are deployed by either UNMIS or deployed by other institutions, which is already an in-kind and technical support. But of course, you can't raise the appetite for the elections until the government were able to demonstrate the primary responsibility in putting SSP on the table, or a value of SSP equivalents in US dollars on the table to attract others to come in. But this does not mean that you can't create the conducive environment. One thing that I've reached with them throughout the meetings is that also the question of open political and civic space. And I really push for the idea that let the election be an inclusive elections. If there are people outside who have discontented voice with the system as elections concerned, let them be allowed to come and contest. And that's some of the areas that His Excellency President have assured me and His Excellency Vice President that may come through the meeting of the presidency decision or political parties dialogue. So they have agreed to hold a political parties dialogue. But also I push them so much on issue of an early declaration of the electoral calendar, that we need to have electoral calendar. So the electoral calendar shows the commitment of the government in terms of milestone. And it's something that we have agreed that at least before March. And remember, March is a period where UNMISS mandate will be renewed. So we've been pushing them. There's need to have the electoral calendar before March so that when UNMISS is renewing its mandate, it can consider electoral calendar. And also before our government, in April, international committees making decision whether they will support South Sudan going for elections or not. And as we speak next week, the UN Secretary General, Under Secretary for Peace Operation is visiting the country with the UN Secretary General Special Envoy for the Horn of Africa, Hannah Tete, is visiting the country. Already there's a big UN officials coming to assess. And we have just seen a UN assessment mission which left the country. So some of the issues I've raised out with the president and other vice president, and the idea is really to nurture culture of dialogue, which I feel, at least I have seen the meeting of His Excellency President, First Vice President on Monday is encouraging, but I hope that they're going to have a meeting of presidents. It wasn't the Council of Ministers meeting today for passage of the budget, and the last week the joint clusters meeting, cluster of economics and cluster of governance for passing the actual budget for all the mechanisms. I think they could have met at the president, so they could have held a political parties dialogue decision. So it's something that I'm keeping on pushing it. I'm left to meet Vice President Wani Iga, the chairperson of Economic Cluster, and to discuss more around economics. And of course, because I cut out with time, but these are the things. And today I had a chance to have a meeting with the bishops at their various hierarchy, right from primate and archbishops of provinces, at the level of the ECS, the Anglican Church, all the bishops across the country. I briefed them. And tomorrow they're making it, next tomorrow on Sunday, they're making a statement of the Anglican Church. And I wish that the same thing I'll do with the Catholics and I'll do with the other denominations. And I'll reach out to other constituencies like chiefs, women groups, and youth groups. So the idea is within, if you remember, last time we discussed here, within, I say we need to take a responsibility as a civil society. The idea is that we have issued a domestic observation report. And within our domestic observation report, we want to use it for nurturing a homegrown mediation for narrowing the gap among our political leaders. There's a high chances that the timeline left now may not be enough for the elections, but the politicians have no responsibility to do the extension. The only thing is now they need to empower the Electoral Commission for the Electoral Commission to offer the technical timeline for the conduct of the elections, then so that the political leaders will make decisions. Decisions on what? Unification of forces, constitutional making process, population census, return of IDPs, opening of political and civic space, and the question of reduction and prevention of the communal violence so that people can go for election with the campaigns that are not affected with the growing armed communal violence. So that is a discussion. I would say, in summary, yes, some scores were registered, but still it's not enough. If you ask me what is next, the next is that I'll put up a report, share with the public, and hope that even I'm interested really to engage with our diaspora population, with different constituents in the diaspora, because it's nurturing a culture of dialogue. And I wish in the next round to bring on, because also in my meetings, I have raised with His Excellency President, First Vice President, the Vice President, and trusting our religious leaders from the different denominations to have a home-based mediation, because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to knock at the doors and open a window for multi-stakeholders engagement with the leaders of the country. Some people are asking me, why are you going alone? Because when I put the request, I want to meet with others, say, no, we only want to see you alone because you have been putting pressure, I want to see you alone. So my interest also going there is opening a window for now many stakeholders delegation to be established as a homegrown mediation to move in. And even I ask them, can you allow us to reach out to the stakeholders? And I hope that we will not underestimate. So they told us, look here, if you fail to reach out to the stakeholders, we are interested. But also they depend on how much the stakeholders are open, the non-signatories to the revitalized peace agreement are open for us to have a dialogue. I think time has come. We need to give chances for every voice. And of course, I said, an election that is not inclusive An election that does not meet prerequisite, an election that does not nurture culture of repairing the broken social fabric may not be peaceful and democratic elections. So the idea is that we're pushing further that. Some people asking me, are you advocating for an extension or not? No, my position is that no more extension, but elections have to be conducted as the end game of the transition government for transfer of power, for what we can describe as an honorable and peaceful transfer of power from now. Some people are asking me, when you're discussing with them, have you raised with them specific issues? And some of the people who have been pushing whether issues like, have I discussed with them exit packages or retirement packages? How can they leave politics? You know, that question is a very tough question. And people are saying, like, why did you ask them about how is their exit strategy? How they're going to leave power? Most of them confirm to me, look here, let elections decide. Let elections decide. And of course, I know deficit in trust and confidence among our leaders is one of the hindrances of not really implementing the agreement timely. And I've discovered in my discussion with them. But of course, as a civil society activist, I will keep on in a constructive, productive, and in an honest, respectful manner to nurture the culture of dialogue. And we hope that through this intervention, we can bring many South Sudanese on the table to have a dialogue on that. And one of my strategies really to reach out to the non-signatories, because I'm trying to nurture if we can create a dialogue, even if you don't go physical, if we can use digital to start talking to each other between those who are in country, those who are outside the country, if we can start building a culture of speaking to each other, talking, because technology may not risk our security, but technology allow us to express our voices. And it's something that I got results from almost all the vice presidents. Yes, we're ready for dialogue. We can delay, we can assign our people, we can talk, we can do this. The only thing that I know that is really bigger issue in South Sudan is that our political elites have nurtured a high level of deficit in trust and confidence, and they have locked their brain that they don't think about alternatively. And you know, when you start managing a country through peace agreements, the culture of political rigidity always keep on growing. And the culture of splits out of groups, and you have seen already there's a splits out of group even about the Nairobi peace talks. People who are opportunistic looking for powers and all this. So for me, that is a challenge. But we hope that as long talking is not killing, talking is not claiming somebody's life, we will never stop nurturing culture of talking to each other and building consensus for the South Sudan that we want. God will give us the opportunity, and we're South Sudanese. We may disagree, we may have anger against each other, but the nation is above our personal interest. The only way we can save the nation is when we have the spirit of constructive dialogue. And that's why maybe after my roundup of the presidency and other constituency, I may try to reach out to the non-signatories. And of course, there's a contacts with them. And I know some start attacking the attitudes of how things have been pushed. And my brothers and sisters in the diaspora, I've received quite a number of messages from brothers and sisters in the diaspora. Some will level you are Judas Iscariot, some will level, obviously, ignorance of knowing the facts and ignorance of having no dialogue with me can empower you to do all leveling that you want. It's the same thing also. One day, if you play the role I'm playing, if I'm ignorant, I will level the same way. But I'm not annoyed, I'm not disturbed, I'm not scared. I know lack of information, lack of dialogue normally creates suspiciousness to dominate opinion. But still, I wish that as South Sudanese, we can stand up and face each other with an honest, constructive dialogue until we build country, because it's not a unique case for us. Some countries have undergone similar experience. So that is the purpose why, and I hope that that will yield good results. Since dialogue have started, we hope to break through the issue of preconditions, creating conducive environment for the conduct of elections, having elections inclusive. Even I was pushing the presidency, I don't need to see really a blanket sort of like pardoning or whatever, is allow people to come in country and leave people to talk to each other. As long as we don't carry guns and shooting at each other, dialogue will make us build consensus. Who believe that one day, one time, we shall sign an agreement with our brothers and sisters from the north, the way they level us, the way they draw pictures of our late hero, Dr. John Garang, as a monkey, as a lion, as an elephant, as what, at the end of the day, same people have authority who draw those pictures. Our late hero, Dr. John Garang, have to sign with them an agreement and the agreement lead us to where we are now today. We hope that same spirit among ourselves, we will nurture it and we will continue. Anyway, none of us here staying in the earth forever. The legacy is leave peace and stability to prevail. So yeah, that's what I can share. But I'm ready to answer questions.
Thank you, Edmund. You did highlight everything that you discussed with president and vice presidents. Also, you know, as you see, when you meet and talk to the president before you met with Dr. Riek Machar, did president talk about, or did you ask president, why is it the SPLM IG are engaging, are campaigning for election for this year, but other political parties are not that active? Did he say anything about it? Why is it the only SPLM-IG are the only one now active for campaigning in the country, but the other, like SPLIO, are quiet? And also, apart from the Dr. Riek Machar, vice president, did you has he talked to some of the international leaders? He mentioned them that a few weeks ago that there's no election will not take place in South Sudan. Did you also talk to him about regarding why is it he feel like there's no election will take place in this year? Thank you. Go ahead.
I want to bring the languages that I heard from them, and quoting them, and then I'll put my analysis. The language of the president, we are going for election without any extension. The language of His Excellency First Vice President, he is for elections, but provide that the preconditions required by the agreement are fulfilled. Then that is divided between the other parties. It's the same position also. If you look at SOA position is that prerequisites are very important. And when it comes to the Vice President like Taban Deng, is saying, look here, we need to go for election, no option. Her Excellency Mama Rebecca Nyan Deng is saying, we have not yet discussed elections at the presidency level so that she can talk about it. She wants to see a meeting of the presidency for an honest discussion. Those are the statements that I've had. Of course, I wish to hear of Dr. Waniga next week when I meet him. The question of open political and civic space is where I brought up the question of the campaigns. Why one party is campaigning. And I'd like to talk to the audience. I question His Excellency when I in a dialogue from a background that I attended events of more than 7 other political parties. But all their events are allowed to be held in a hotel conference room where the parties are speaking to their own members. And while the SPLM is doing rallies in an open space, these parties are not allowed. I brought to His Excellency President, he said, look here, yes, maybe that has happened as a mistake, but he wished to see everybody in the space. And I really ask, I say, can you make a circular over that? Can you make an order allowing political parties? Because I reminded him on 22nd October 2022, the presidents met and they communicated through the former minister in the office of the president, Benjamin Marial, to governors, county commissioners, and chief administrative areas to open political and civic space. But this space was violated simultaneously by the parties in terms of SPLM and SPLM-IU. So I told him, like, look here, other political parties also need to have a space that you are enjoying in campaigning, even if we call it as a premature campaign, because my campaign has to be declared by the Electoral Commission. So we had discussion over that. The concept of reached that, yes, there's a need to make a political decision on the opening of political and civic space for every political party to enjoy without any form of discrimination. But I say my main problem with that, even if you make a circular, if there's no system for tracking the implementation of the circular, some governments at the subnational level are actually undermining the directives. Because I told him, look here, this decision of 22nd October 2022 among us as a presidency was not respected by some governors, was not.
Okay.
So I raised it up. There's a need for you to come in. And I raised it up with Dr. Riek. And I think this is one of the things that they have taken note of. And they told me they will make decisions in the presidency. And that's why I told Dr. Riak why SPLMIO is not campaigning. I asked him over that. Of course, his position is that, look here, we can't go for campaigning until our conditions that we raise are fulfilled. That's their position. That's why they're not in campaign. But of course, they're establishing their offices. Remember, they have been moving with T-shirts. Remember the last incident in Akobo, their T-shirts were arrested. And we stood up and we really pushed the Akobo Commission. Later on, he released the T-shirts of the SPLMIO. So that is another way of campaigning, that you are establishing your offices, you are moving around with T-shirts. I'm quite sure they're not speaking about implementing the agreement. They also bring up like what the tech is, their tech for the elections. So that is, and other political parties are also doing at events in Juba with T-shirts. But the only thing is that some of them are restricted not to use public space. Like what happened to Sowa in the basketball stadium. While SPLM is using public space, I say, I push His Excellency, allow them to use the public space. Because if a political party, you're speaking to your own members, how does the voters know about you? One party is engaging with the public, whom are going to be potential voters, and other parties are not engaging with the public, they're engaging with their members, and their members are not the old voters that are going to engage. So these are some of the things that I push for all of them, and they reach concern that, yes, these are some of the things that they need to make decision, and it have to be exercised. And His Excellency, first Vice President acknowledged that, His Excellency President acknowledged that, other Vice President acknowledged that, yes, what I raise is a serious concern. Of course, we need to start pushing them for more, and also making sure that the state resources are used equally. So police cannot be benefited, cannot be helping other political parties and discriminate other political parties. If there's any chance of using state resources, it should be used equally. SSBC in availing airtime for all political leaders to speak out, newspapers, not removing articles of other political parties' event. All these I pushed them in the meeting. And part of the consensus is that these are issues they need to reach decision during political parties dialogue or in the presidency meeting.
Thank you very much. There's a question that's been asked from Clubhouse. Amigo asking you, Masari Edmund, do you think the few months left before the election will be enough to complete army unification? So that question is coming from Amigo in Clubhouse. So we remain with few months and the
exactly.
Yeah.
There are clear timeline in the meetings that almost we are reaching consensus with them. As we speak per now, President, His Excellency President, His Excellency First Vice President have confirmed to me food is delivered to the cantonment sites. And their schedule is that at least by the month of March, the non-unified forces, the reason they push to March, because they still have over 500 something soldiers which are waiting for redeployment. These are mainly prison service, fire brigade service, wildlife service, and police. They're not yet finished their redeployment. At least the army have finished their redeployment with soldiers. But also those soldiers who are redeployed, they need to be given assignments. Now, until when the police, the idea is that in February, the other civil defense units, meaning the police, fire brigade, wildlife, will do their deployment in the months of February, which we are now in. We are now on the 9th of it. And that they may end up by at least early March. And then from early March, they enroll phase 2. Then this will continue. The aim they're aiming is that at least by the month of May, that's the calculation of His Excellency First Vice President. By the end of May or early June, they graduate the last batch of the unification of forces, and then they redeploy them. So that time you'll have one commander-in-chief, you may have one army, no anymore 2 armies. Of course, in between, I brought to them the issue of defections, whether defections will never undermine the unification spirit of the army. They say, of course, look here. Some of them are telling me very clear. Some of these commanders are now politically motivated. They're tired of saying the barrack don't find defections, use it as a way of buying political attention and having a political return. So the idea is that at least by June, in my meetings, that all I get is that at least by May or June, unification is done. What does this mean? This means technically it's also eating into the remaining time of the elections, because those are the forces you need them for electoral process. So technically, the period for the conduct of the election is not enough. There's a likelihood that the electoral calendar that may come out, it may pass the required time for the conduct of the election. I'm not declaring anything here. I'm not supporting extension here. I'm not declaring extension, but let us wait what the electoral Commission is going to come out with what we call electoral timeline and electoral calendar. But the way how things are moving, allocation of resources, preparation, and remember, I'm a member of the Constitutional Review Commission. As a member of the Constitutional Review Commission, we came with a 2-year action plan to have a citizen-driven constitution. So all those things add up that can give a clear reading of really whether the timeline left is ready for elections or we need to have extra time for the conduct of the elections. So I think for me, that is my answer to his question, is that per my meeting with them, all of them are telling me by the months of May and June, the last phase of the unification of forces is done. And they told me per now, food is already delivered to the sites to mobilize the soldiers for phase 2, which is the last phase of the unification of forces. But of course, in terms of electoral timeline, this means a lot.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for answering that question. And regarding to election, like we remain with few months before the deadline for election, and we see that the leaders are not the peace agreement that they signed in 2018, same as some of the signature they signed in the chapter, they did not achieve it. And what if the election will not take place? And then they will say, okay, because what I'm seeing now, there are some of the members in the parliament are proposed that they need extensions. Even one of the persons suggest that they need to give them 5 years extension. If that the case will take place, because the way we're seeing it is like it's not even 50-50% the election take place. Like today, I see that the cabinet approved 731 billion South Sudanese pound for elective budget. Okay. Also, question will say where this money coming from? Do they have this fund available for the election? Second, two, you mentioned about the IDP in the camp, and some of them. Will these people will engage during election? Will they vote? How this will be managed? All of these are questioning. Also, a constitution, as you are a member of the constitution committee, is this going to be approved? Constitution going to be complete before December election? All of this. Okay, if they said, okay, we don't have enough time now, we need extension. How many months, how many years they need to push it? If the extension again, what will be the reaction to the citizen in the country? So all of these will be the violent breakout if there's extension. So all of these are questions, and South Sudanese, some majority are support for election. But if the election not take place, what will be the solution? What will be the outcome? So go ahead. Thank you.
First, from my meetings with the president, first vice president, other vice presidents, the message conveyed to them that any political extension, it will be political suicide. And this is based on the messages coming from the streets, that citizens are tired of the extension and they feel extension is denying them the opportunity of holding leaders accountable. They need to end the transition with the conduct of elections. But of course, I repeat myself, technically you can't go for elections without a conducive environment. And the conducive environment have a lot of things to do with the prerequisite. So in a nutshell, the SPLMIO are for that tech of extension, but not longer extension. It seems coming out very clear because this position of without prerequisite being fulfilled, we are not going to go for elections, though we are for elections. That's the position. And you can see already from the side of some of the lobbies in the town, there are 3 proposals. And I don't think that 3 proposals are coming out of blue. Proposal 1, it is a proposal of where the vice presidents have to be reallocated from vice presidents to positions like forming a government under the 2012 arrangement. Wani Iga goes back to parliament, Taban goes as a governor of Unity State, Mama Rebecca goes as a governor of Jongole, and I think Abdulbag governor to the side of Warab. So if you see that proposal, and that proposal, it was published in one of the selling newspaper as a front page. And it's called City Review. City Review published a press release. And it was not pulled out by National Security Service. It means it's a trial of public opinion. But that proposal is completely undermining the spirit of the revitalized peace agreement because even Article 8.4 of the agreement does not allow the political parties to do that arrangement. Because arrangement that are there is the arrangement of the current structure. That by itself is a disaster. and it's a recipe for return back to violence. The idea of 5 years extension, there's a 3 proposals: 5 years extension, 3 years extension, technical extension for 1 year. So if you see this proposal are not coming out of blue, these are proposals being discussed. And I ask them, are you people behind this proposal? Your Excellency, President, we are not for extension. But in my discussion with the first Vice President, clearly that there's a need for a technical extension to allow people to go for the vote because the prerequisite is there. So one of the things that it is becoming common and it's clear is that the incumbent political leaders in the government, their interest for the conduct of the election is less if they're not assured of winning the return back to the government. That's one thing that I have to make it very clear from my meetings. I've discovered very clear. As long the chance of not winning elections is limited, the appetite for holding elections is very low. And that is not only at the level of the presidency, at the Council of Ministers, at the parliament level, at the states level, people are not interested to go where they don't have chance of coming back. And that is going to be the area of tension between the political elites in the government and the massive population. And you remember, already as I speak now, our region of Baragazal, that by then was relatively stable, is unfolding. Wow is being destabilized by what is going on between Warab and Western Baragazal in area of Ju River. We have seen emerging for the first time a tension between Warab and Lex. We have seen now the Abiy one is getting a different scale. So all those are sometimes events of those who does not want election. They created them. Because even some in the town are talking about declaration of the state of emergency. And once you declare state of emergency, what next? No holding of elections. It means status quo continue. But that's why people like us as civil society, we keep on building a constructive way of nurturing a dialogue, nurturing understanding that let us be honest to ourselves and sincere and build a new pathway that is inclusive and accepted by any player. That is the situation we're in. And these principles are not free, by the way. They have been surrounded by team around them. They're not free, they're not just like individuals that you can talk with them and they make decisions. No, around them, the people that also who will try to push influence. Because in some of my meetings, even I started receiving calls from some of the ministers. What are you doing? What are you lobbying for? What are you campaigning for? You know, is there any reshuffle? If there's a reshuffle, what do you think about me? You know, you start getting those calls. Is there any extension? Why don't you stand for extension? Why don't you declare extension after a meeting? Because in all my media briefing, I've never pronounced the word extension. Some people say, but what is wrong with it? You should pronounce it. I say, no, I'm not for it. So you can see the level of people appetite for that. In terms of the refugees and the IDPs, there are a lot of calls that the return of the IDPs and the refugees is voluntary. But for them to make a voluntary decision is so much determined by the level of security and protection and safety that they feel is in-country provided by the government. So even if you have money, even if you unify the forces, as the refugees and IDPs are not convinced that their safety and security they will secure, still they feel scared they may not come quickly. So there's a discussion who can have the vote. Of course, IDPs can have the chance of the vote, and then the refugees have the vote for the presidency. And even I would like to share, underground, there's people saying, no, why do you go for the votes of president, governor, national MPs, and state MPs at the same time? Some people are saying, no, why don't you go for the vote of president and governors first? Then you delay the MPs, then we can go to the MPs later because there's no population census so that the number of the voters register. Because remember, the vote for the president and the vote for the governors does not need a big constituencies. It needs a centralized constituencies to vote for, and across the country you can go there. But these are all proposals that are on the streets, which are not official. But as said now, rumor mongers are doing their business for buying attention, moving with people like waves. You know, you move here, you move there. So you sleep today, you wake up in the morning, you find another rumor, and then you start engaging yourself. So people are preconceived to engage with this day. And that's why people like us, we're trying to build sincerity and the actual commitment on what exactly we need to commit into. One thing I will tell you, maybe for our brothers who are non-signatories, I've been asking about even the political parties dialogue, inclusive one, because I remember one time when I spoke in your platform, some of them even came in attacking like, oh, we thought you're an activist. It seems you are already bored. You are pro the status quo. You're no longer a neutral voice. My space is different from the space of a political minded person. But what I want to do is that I can't allow exclusion or discrimination in setting up a framework of nurturing the state and the nation we want. So I ask those questions and I push for those questions and I try to reason out for those questions. There are ideas coming up. They are buy-in. It depends on how you communicate and how you approach and how do you build an identity that makes people feel like, oh, it is something, okay, unique. It's not something that I'm worried about it. The interpretation for me is different. I had all those chances to discuss in my meetings, but I feel the culture of dialogue is missing among ourselves. We have a culture of preconceived dialogues that we have already determined the results. But if we can go for dialogue with an honest ground, we can make a difference.
Thank you very much, Edmund. Talk about the all-out group, non-civics. There is a statement that 2 days ago, General Secretary of Peace Negotiation in Rome, he was interviewed by Radio Tamazic 2 days ago, and he told them that the reason why the president decided to request them that to move the peace talk to Kenya was because the peace was dragging too long, and also too, what they expected the election is coming in December 2024. Is that the reason? That is the reason why President decided to move the peace negotiation from Rome to Kenya. And also we've seen to the opposition camp, they are divided. Some of them, they don't want peace to be moved to Kenya. Some of them, they agree. And that is what's going on right now. There's some of the issues going on with the political. When you talk to President, what is he stick? Because the opposition right now, there's a lot of confusion going on, because the government is stick to the peace negotiation that they start with the non-signature in 2018 in Rome. But opposition, the non-signature all-out group, they're saying that we are no longer called SOMA, because the government is stick with the SOMA group. But the SOMA now, they said that we are no longer called SOMA. We interviewed some of the opposition leaders here for the last few days, and some of them, they sound like they are now called themselves as NCF. But I never heard from the government side acknowledge the NCF. They acknowledge the SOMA. And within SOMA now, the SOMA now, they said that we are not called SOMA, we are NCF. So this one will bring a lot of confusion and dragging on between the government and the all-out group, and they start a peace talk in Kenya in coming month, days ahead before the election.
To be honest with you, in my meetings, I try to pursue that particular position.
Mm-hmm.
Present perspective, in his side, he is honest, he is sincere. He wants to bring the talks close to Nairobi and want it to be mediated in a manner that will give results.
Mm-hmm.
That is his tack, and that's why the reason he will come to Nairobi is that the idea let it be close to the region and be close, and at the same time pursue it. But I ask, what is wrong with St. Gideon community? I think one of the things that also the government is playing, and I think the whole out have to be very clear with it, is that also, there's this concept where if you want to pursue people, keep shifting the options so that at least those options give you to Yanze Gurbal Kida, like you are trying to clean the group so that you fist out some of them which are good. And already you have seen with the non-signatory, the splits that are coming up. Some were saying we're for Nairobi, some were saying we're not for Nairobi, and some who say we're not for Nairobi. The groups are splitting up, opportunists are coming up and saying, no, we don't want any more X and Z because we're for that. And this is going to be one of the trends that's going to really drag feet in the Nairobi talks, is that as you're going for peace talks, some groups are splitting up and some groups are changing identity, some groups are changing goalposts, and this is going to be a problem. And you have seen the interview with Tamazuch, with Paulo of St. Gideon, and Paulo said as long as they're invited, they will join the process in Nairobi. It seems the recent diplomacy President William Ruto did in Rome, remember William Ruto was in Rome and had a chance to meet with the whole St. Gideon, and seems like he have won an acceptance that yes, as long you can carry it off, as long it can bring peace, St. Gideon have no problem, and St. Gideon may come if you can officially invite us and we can play our role as St. Gideon community. So it seems like that level, there's a signal that there's a nurturing of consensus between Kenya and St. Gideon community to go, while this is also posting a threat to the unity and solidarity and strongness of coming together of the opposition to hold. Remember, some of them say, look here, this is a new idea. Let us do consultation in Rome before we move it to Nairobi, because we feel there's a need for us to reach to certain principle of commitment about how the process go about. Remember, there's this dilemma that we're in, or dualism that we're in. Are we going for fresh process, or are we building on the Rome peace process? And then the identity of shifting the goalpost. Are we SOMA or are we non-signatories, the Revitalized Peace Agreement? Are we going previously as non-signatories in terms of, or do we bring on board other actors that have merged in between the time of the delay of the talks? So all those are critical issues that are going to challenge the rollout of the mediation in Nairobi, or whether returning back to St. Gideon. And this culture, I remember, I told you one time in one of these talk shows, I say, once you split, it takes time to repair. So the splits, right from Soma 1 by then Soma 2, or what they call some under General Thomas Cirillo, Soma where Pagan and Paul Malong have to come to Nairobi, they have to go back. All those damages, you can't repair them in one day time. Politically, you can smile to each other, but in your hearts, you have to compete. So that's the biggest problem that is going to affect them. But that's also going to give the incumbent a chance of maintaining the status quo in going for the talks. So right now, we have not yet found that dialogue. And that's why I think also this is the hardship Kenya is getting. Kenya is battling with it. It's how to reach a consensus that even those who mistrust holding a talks in Nairobi for their safety and security are convinced. So for me, this will drag a period of time. I'm not quite sure that the Nairobi peace talks is going to be there, because each group, they can position themselves, declare positions. So, but I've tested in my discussion with the vice presidents. I told them, of course, as an incumbent, they say, we are ready. Let them accept. And if you see the list of the delegation of the incumbent government, it's almost including everybody. The IOs are there, the SOAs are there, the OPPs are there. And of course, people who are abandoned with the non-signatories are also joining the team and going to be part of the mediators to talk with the team as incumbent. And that is the weakness of political maturity and political indiscipline that we have among our political elites. I don't really blame one. All of them are equal. There's a culture of political immaturity and political indiscipline that makes people to stick into the political rigidity and undermine the whole interest of why you should keep a country to be stable and to be, when you manage politics with egos, politics of egos normally allow rigidity and culture of a split as a driving force for political engagement. And that's what we're witnessing now. People are so having high level of egos around political engagement, and they're so rigid that no compromises. What end up? It ends up group splits, because, egos and rigidity, normally it buries the spirit of consensus making or consensus building. And this is where the tense is, whether with the incumbent or with the non-signatories. And I like it that our political elites have exposed themselves to us to know. Education is not the papers. Learned person is not the papers. Education is measured by the level of maturity, discipline, and culture of looking into the other side of the story and having a position of compromise to reach a middle ground. That is how education is. That's how education is described. So how much papers we have, how much we're exposed, how good English we write, your attitude determines who you are, regardless of the gains you have in terms of your setup as a person. So our political elites, wherever they have shown us very clear that they are politically immature and they have political discipline highly that have made them to believe on egos and rigidity as a pathway. And you can't finish things in one day time. And I wish that our political elites could have learned from the struggle. Are we able to win Sudan armed forces? Besides having SPLA radio, what propaganda we have done, what hate speech we have communicated, what hostile mobilization have we done, how much Sudan have done against us, leveling us, naming us, hate speech from them, committing atrocities. They couldn't win us, we couldn't win them. We end up in the mediation table. Also in the mediation table, how smart we are, how much the concept of New Sudan we have, how much Islamic and Arabization Sudan have, we have to reach a middle ground. It's the same thing with us, South Sudanese. We must learn that politics, it works where compromises is embraced, egos are put aside, rigidity is put aside, and we become constructively accepting each other's opinion in order to reach a middle ground. There's nobody who can win it all, and there's nobody who can lose it all. We have to be in the middle ground. Otherwise, we'll continue until the last day. None of us will win all, none of us will lose all. But we need to have that spirit of accepting opinions and sitting on the table. And that's why when I was meeting the presidency, I would say, why are you so scared with the call for inclusive national dialogue? Was it not the same thing in Nairobi? And I asked him, even we're going to go to Nairobi, as civil servants want to be there on the table. So why are we scared? The question is the interpretation of egos and political attitudes have dragged us to where we are now. So this concept that South Sudan is new, we must be given, I don't believe on that. The human beings who are running politics in South Sudan, they're not new. And the disturbing thing, the shameful position is that we got independence when we have PhD holders that are uncounted, you can't count them. Some countries got independence with 1 degree holder or 1 diploma holder. We are learned, we are exposed, we got independence. You know, when I was going to the presidents, I say, don't show us that we go for a running marathon. Hussein Bolt is behind there running from far, and we're told that you start from here, and you want to say, no, let us wait until Hussein Bolt reach us, and then we go together with him. We have the opportunity. We can apply technology live, we can practice democracy. So there's nothing to say we need to go back as like where the other countries have started, and then we need to go forward. So for me, it's a clear political maturity absence among our political elites, and is a high level of political indiscipline. And let this situation continue. Most of these parties are going to split. For me, I'm convinced. I saw them in the revitalized peace agreement. People who are die hard later on walk away, defected. And those days they were insulting. I remember there was a case I'll share with you. I had a fight with some few guys in Sawa when we were in Khartoum. I came to Juba. When I arrived Juba, already I got underground negotiation, so it's going to split up. So when I say I'm a bit worried about political defection is going to drag the country pathway for peace and stability. When I arrived to Khartoum, these guys attacked me. You have been paid money, that's why. And then the day they split, I called them. I said, do you remember that day when I told you you're going to split up? And they asked me why. I said, because the level of egos and the level of rigidity and the level of believing that power is everything in politics will not allow you to move as a team. So this culture will continue, groups will continue. Some will say we are for it, some will say we're not for it. Those who say we're not for it, they'll continue splitting. Those who are for it will continue splitting. So we're going to create a culture of multiple political players that have high egos, those who are rigid, and having political attitudes where they're believing on real culture of political immaturity and indiscipline. So for me, if we want to build the state of South Sudan, we need to change our political attitudes. We put aside our egos, our culture of rigidity, and let us accept everyone's opinion. Let us not be rigid. And that's when I was engaging the incumbents. I repeat myself. I asked them, why are you sensitive? It's a call. Let's try to see it. It's just like national dialogue. It's just like any mediation processes. It's not telling you quit the power. Let's go and talk. The outcome of talk will determine. So when they say, okay, maybe the interpretation is a problem. So for me, it's also the way how we communicate, because language play a big role for a recipient of a message to believe on it. So for me, that's the appeal. And that's why I will appeal to all the constituencies that are politically discontented with each other. Leave out your egos, leave the culture of rigidity, change your political attitudes, avoid political immaturity and political indiscipline for you to have a constructive dialogue, whether the incumbent or the non-signatories or any emerging new group. We must embrace the culture of dialogue without any preconceived ideas or preconditions. Let's go and talk. Without you setting, let the talks nurture the results of what we want. That makes none of us lose, none of us win. We must go to all win-win position. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. You are right. Absolutely. So these political parties, they will speak, and we have seen this week, NAS, they spill around, they spill into two. NAS right now they have a, a new group just formed. They break away from NAS. They call themselves as a NAS, Revolutionary Command Council, RCC. So this happened this week, and they say that they are going to the peace talk with in Kenya. So which is the more thing will come. So before we move to the next topic, there's a question that Dr. Newell asking you in Clubhouse. And for those of you in Clubhouse, I will open the hands after we finish our topic. We have two more topics that we discuss, and I will open. Newell asking you regarding about election. Dr. Newell is asking you this. Mr. Yakani, do you believe that the protests in Senegal in the wake of presidential postponement of the election can also happen in South Sudan? Should the government extend the agreement and delay election? If so, do you think the people of South Sudan will risk the protesting? So that's a question from Dr. Yuan. Thank you. Go ahead.
The culture of public protest is determined to what level is the state tolerating protest and responding to protests. Of course, in our culture is a bit challenging, but there's other ways of protest also. There's other ways where you can see people speaking negatively about you completely. And you can hear the messages on the street, though they are not there, but they will tell you very clear, we are disappointed, we are not happy with you, we'll never go with you, we'll never act for you, though they are not in the streets throwing stones here and there and confronting themselves with the police at that level. It is a very delicate equation. Going for elections without conducive environment, postponing elections, it means extension. It's a very delicate. And that's why one of the things we've been calling is that it's a high time. And sometimes when I call this, some people feel so scared that why do you stick only for the political parties who are in the government to have a dialogue? They are now running the government. Let the political parties in the government right now sit and make a political decision on this question that our brother have raised, doctor have raised. We may not go Senegal way, but we may go with the waves we have seen now in Baragazal. Look at the people are killing themselves in numbers. For the first time for us as a SEPO, in our early warning system, we have registered within the first 36 days of the beginning of the year, we have lost over 150 lives of innocent citizens and of almost 200 injured. And these statistics were not been registered since the formation of the government of national unity. We have never registered it, but we have registered right now. Maybe that's the underway of how people are protesting. Communal violence is going on. You may see political contented, and you may see also statements coming from groups that are there. I have seen the Jenkins of Elders issue a statement about the situation between the Ngok and the Twitch, the Jumper, where they say, no, look here, we're calling for mutual, and we have seen joint statements from elders like Bona Malwal and Francis Deng. You can see those waves. You don't see them as, but that's another way of people expressing their disappointments, and people are showing things by being violent at the level of the communities. So that's the problem. And that's why whether we need to postpone, whether we need to adjourn, it is a South Sudanese leaders' decision. And that's why if it's the international community, they will not tell you that we are not for you to hold elections. The international will never say the statement that we are not for you to hold elections. They will always make a decision for having peaceful and democratic election. So as a leaders of South Sudan, this is what is coming out from the UN, from everybody, that you as a political leaders of South Sudan make your own national decision for holding peaceful and democratic elections. But do our political leaders have that spirit of making a decision for democratic and peaceful election while they're scared of each other, while they have high egos of each other? So my message to the brother is that we may not go the Senegal way. I don't know, maybe people may go the Senegal way, but we may not go the Senegal way, and we can go our own South Sudanese way where violence will take a large scale among the communities. As we speak now, as I told you, look at what is going on in the region of Baragazal is really shocking. Maybe that's the way how South Sudanese goes for protest. And this is also what I raised to the leadership of the country. I say you may sit with the bodyguards around you, few of them, you may feel comfortable. But down there, things are breaking that even you can't go. So how do you go for election campaign? Do you campaign only in Juba? How can you reach out to the public? So for me, those are all indicators of citizens' discontented positions. So instead of you controlling and they can't go to the street, they can go and show themselves at the community level and slide. Imagine land disputes that were there in history. We're now using it as an instrument of killing ourselves. Land dispute between Western Baragazal, some part of Western Baragazal with Warab at the border, violence. Land dispute between Legs and Warab, violence. Land dispute between Warab and Abiy, violence. I'm quite sure it will soon go. Look at what's happening in Duk. Look what's happening in Akobo recently. After a peace mediation between Murle and Low Nuer Konkule in Akobo, the following morning, fire in one of the cattle camps in Akobo. And then Budi, people are losing lives. In Kajukeji, people are running away because tension over logging, illegal logging in the county. So for me, that's another way how people expand. So for me, really, we need political attitude change for our leaders to make a political decision. If we can reach that political attitude change through inclusive multi-stakeholders dialogue or through whatever way, as long as non-violent, that's the pathway.
Thank you, Edmund. Let's move to the next our topic. What can you tell us about the progress made on NEC and NCRC and PPC? What the progress? Can you update the South Sudan about the progress that they made? Thank you.
I will say one, with the NEC, the National Election Commission, they have developed their budget. They have come with action plan. They passed their budget. Their budget's already passed, as you have seen, 713 billion SSP, and the Minister of Finance assured he can pay 15% of that, which is around 107 billion, and the rest will be met in the next financial year, 2024-2025. That's in terms of NEC, and the meetings are going on among the Electoral Commission. One thing I like from the members of NEC, and this is what I would like to share with the audience, is that the members of NEC have stood up and say, though they're nominated by political parties, they will sit at NEC not to represent their political parties. They represent South Sudanese, and they will stand as independent, as non-partisan. That's a very good position if they can maintain it. I like that will that they now start telling to the nation, we don't belong to our parties. We belong to it. And even some of them have made it very clear in a public event that we will never wear our party t-shirts from the day we took off, which is for me is a good message to the country. Where I am, the National Constitutional Review Commission, we have developed our action plan. We have developed our budget. Our budget, we passed it. It was taken to the joint clusters meeting of the governance and economic. It was passed. So it's also going to go to the supplementary budget. The Political Parties Council have opened up registration. The only thing with the Political Parties Council is they open up registration. The registration fees is very damn expensive, around 65 to 75,000 US dollars for you to register a political party. The amount is 50,000 fees and then 25,000 fees if I don't 75,000 of, and that's why I'm taking this platform and therefore I've called let the registration of the political parties be affordable, because I'm a bit worried whether all political parties will register with that fees. And I think the parliament is going to return back from recess next week. These are some of the things we need to say to the parliament and lobby some parliamentarians to raise motions on the fees for registration of the political parties. Let the fees not be an instrument for denying the growth of democracy in the country, because democracy growth in the country is determined by multi-party system, even how small the party is. Give them some reasonable, affordable fees that they can register without expensive. Otherwise, the giant political parties that have privilege of running so much big ministries in the government may have the chance to mobilize that money, than other parties that have no representation in the government, they can't mobilize it. And there's no funder that want to fund the political parties registration. That is it. But of course, political parties council have come with their action and they have opened up their doors and they have given the parties to register until June. Yeah, they're given like 3 months registration. Some political parties are already engaged in the registration, and we've been advocating about the inclusion of women during the political parties registration. We've been pushing the political parties council so much that if you're registering any party, ensure the party have shown representation of 35% in their leadership, in their membership, inclusion of youth in their leadership, in their membership, inclusion of persons with disability in their leadership, in their membership. So those are some of the things that we're engaging. And there's a quite number of workshops that have been conducted. We have seen an induction workshop for the National Election Commission. We have seen an induction workshop for the National Constitutional Review Commission. We have seen political party council now want to reach out to the states and show people about the political party registration, and their budget is also passed. So those are the latest developments. Of course, everything is determined by availability of political commitment and will and resources for this institution to meet their mandate that is given to them by the legislation that brought the establishment as, or their reconstitution as an entities. That's the update.
Thank you very much. Yeah, let me move to the final topic that we are discussing. Let's move to our to communal violence. As we have seen the breakout of the army that in part of South Sudan, especially particularly in Abia area and Twitch, and also part of Lake State, and Western Bargazal. But let us focus what happened last week in Abia when some of the youth attack the area and they kill dozen people, more than 53 or more than that. And many are wounded. Even some of the UN has been killed. So I don't know, one person I believe, but what I heard that is that might be, but I don't know if that's true, but you can tell us. So what is, when you meet with the president and other vice presidents, what are the actions that they can, for the reason Biden happened, that many people are lost their life? So what are they doing to stop the violence in Abia and Twitch area?
When I met them is one of the reasons I pushed, and I really appreciate that they have responded to me positively by holding a meeting on Monday. The issue of Abia becoming more tense is associated with the president's order of the 16th January. You know, there's this order president issued for resolving the tension in the region of Baragazal, with specific also focus on Abia situation. And in that order, there are provisions which were misinterpreted, and it has caused a bit of havoc of this escalation. What is it? One provision was that the conflicting parties that traditionally we have between Abia and Ngok, which is the Twitch Mayardi Dinka versus the Ngok Dinka. That's the primary players. But each of them have allies, which are mainly from Unity State. In their classes, they're Nuer allies. So what happened is that the order have said the allies should return to their land of origin. And specifically, the spiritual leader of the Nuer, which is in the side of the Twitch, should go back to unity. Now, there were directives for those orders to be executed. When the spiritual leader was approached to go back to where he comes from, and remember, the spiritual leader also having an issue with the political leadership in Unity State, because in several public statements that were issued, and several, even if not officially, in several public gatherings, he's been leveled that he's an agent of Stephen Boy, who is another rebel leader for another group which have caused havoc in Mayo. So the spiritual leader with the youth take that quote that they have been leveled on that, and they have a problem with the political leadership at the Unity State, so they don't want to go back there. But remember also their allies during the crisis. And you have these Nuer were displaced from Unity due to the flood there in Abia, who most of their allies to the Ngok. And they were asked to return. Now, the allies stood up. Okay, we're going to go, but we need compensation. And specifically, the one which happened in Abia, that the first thing is that there were a joint raiding of Ngok and the Nuers, and there is disagreement over the division of that. And then now with the fueling of the presidential order for them to get out, they asked for compensation. And that's why the deadly incident happened in Abia town. I have to be sincere. People can hate me here. They can level to me. I know when I made the first statements over this particular issue, some people said that they want to sue me to court because I've taken side. I have not taken side with any either of the party, whether Ngok or Twitch. I'm telling the truth. So what happened, the first incident happened in Abia, it's a really Nuer versus Ngok Dinka. The Twitch couldn't cross. And that's becoming deadly. And why? It's fueled by the presidential order. So you need to find a way of implementing the presidential order in a way that does not give because of this question, people are saying, why do you VNG your own citizen in their own lands? They have the right to live anywhere. But that's a misinterpretation of the presidential order. So this has caused havoc. That's so much. And this is becoming a very influential strategy for the wars. And what happened in Abia is really, I call it as a genocide. I don't care about the parties but the incident that happened is a really, really bad incident. But also the question of how do you mitigate the Nuers and those who feel that they are allies to any either of the warring parties and their own safety and security returning back to their hometown in Unity State is under threat, they will act always violently. So some of the things I push, and I know His Excellency First Vice President was involved in making phone calls, and he told me that to de-escalate the tension among the Noers who are in Abyei town, which of course does havoc of burning shops, killing people, and a lot of interpretation, which I don't think it did an accurate interpretation coming out. The way people do the interpretation. So those issues need to be mitigated in a very constructive way. And their life, as we speak now, we're getting messages, they're claiming that their lives is under threat. They feel they're so scared that they need to come back. And some of them are already returning to Mayon, counting the handing over their rifles that they have in their hands. And they look like they're well equipped and well armed in terms of facing the communities of the Ngok inside Abyei. So this question of how do you really return those allies of the warring parties back to their hometowns in a manner that is not violent? That's for me. And some political elites have taken advantage of that. They fuel that more. They give a lot of messaging. They give a lot of mobilization on that. So that really is a deadly. And you can see how the incident is unfolding. And revenge attacks are going to come up anyway. You're not going to stop that. Partly, the same presidential order was wrongly misinterpreted for generating the tension that is going on between the Marialbai and the Apuk in terms of how you manage the border between Apuk and Marialbai. As Jur River concerned, Jur and bordering Warap is concerned. That is it. And remember, in Wauta order, there's a tension over the naming of Clement Borough Bridge. There's a denial of the presidential order when it raises that. So these are the things that I raised with the presidency. And I told them there's a need for them to meet as a political leadership of the country over that. And they met on Monday. And you can see in the Facebook page of the presidency, you can see the discussion all about, they met and they discussed the issue of the Ngok and the Twitch, how to resolve it. And part of it is really to assert a state powerful approach for finding a preventive and a solutions to the tension that is going on, because we are losing lives of our own citizens who are committing atrocities against our own citizens. And you have seen the intervention that have come up, even the joint position between Francis Deng and Bona Malwal in calling people mediate, don't go for violence, use mediation. But I know that there are political elites that are foiling up these issues. Last time I promised to name them. I saw positive things are coming. Some of them say like, no, don't go for naming right now. Let's just find a way of dialogue. So for me, it's really a question that you need a political leadership, assertive position on this particular issue. And if you see all these issues are related to issue of competition over land, over borders, and let me tell you, between the Ngok and the Twitch, let us not cover. Aneth is a problem because of the revenue in Aneth market. That revenue have fallen so much. So it's a question of really taking responsibility of finding amicable solution among our communities, because genocide is happening, crime against man is happening, and we are a bit worried about that. So for me, this is the situation that is happening. And now the new development between Ju River, between Apuk and the Marialbai is a tension. And if that find the issue of the Clement Borough Bridge is not resolved, it's going to be a tension. So it's the same thing, what is happening in Duk, what's happening in Akoba, what's happening in Kajukeju, what's happening in Budi, in terms of Camp 15. These are all disturbing information. So communal violence is taking a large scale. The different unique identity that is disturbing is the identity of where usually when we have cattle raiding among our communities or revenge attack, they don't reach to the level of burning markets, destroying livelihood of their competing opponent. But what I've seen in Abyei, markets have been burned, livelihood has been destroyed. It's really like an ethnic cleansing. So for me, it's a really political. So when I pushed the president and first vice president, they met, though the results of the meeting is not clearly disclosed. But of course, for someone like me, I'm not going to keep quiet. I'm going to follow up with them. I want to see the outcome of the results. What are they looking into it, and how can they translate that for safety and security of our communities? And even I want to take this space also to call upon people who might have been splitting up. Let us split, not claim lives of our own citizens. Because this split up are going to go to so many groups. It's not only one group, by the way. This thing is going to affect all the groups. All the groups are going to face it. As long as the political egos is very high, as long as opportunists are looking for shortcuts, opportunists will walk away from you. And I remember one time when Dr. John Garang was saying, all passengers in bus is not having one station. People have different stations. When their station comes, they'll jump out. So this culture of everybody in the world who are driving the country like politicians in a bus, it will not help stability in the country. And all these credits, and even I've seen a statement from the Gen Council of Elders pushing for a peaceful resolution of the tension between the Twitch and the Ngok, because even some people are saying it's Gen Council of Elders that is fueling tension on the ground there, but they made a clear statement that they are not part of it. They have not fueled any violence there. They don't believe on those ones. They believe on solution, settlement between the Twitch and the Ngok. So they, as Gen Council, they're not there. They made a public statement. Joshua Dow shared with me the statement, and I read the statement. The statement is as equal as a statement of anybody who is calling for a peaceful resolution of tension between Twitch and. But the question is, who is supplying the ammunitions? Who is aiding them with the weapon that they're using? Who is pushing the youth for those violence? Is it not the same allies? Is it not the same politicians who are in power doing that? So for me, that's a sad moment. It's really a disturbing moment. It's a sad moment for us to see ourselves killing. And one of the things that is now, you know, I was in the streets of Konyo Konyo. I came across NCP politicians because due to the crisis in Sudan, they end up as what do you call urban refugees in South Sudan, in Juba. Some of them were telling me, and they were laughing, they were smiling. And not for me, because I started my activism also in Khartoum, I was active like this one. So they're telling me, do you remember when we told you guys, South Sudanese, that when you got independence, you will not govern yourself, you will kill yourself? And one of them I know is a professor in Khartoum University. He's now elderly. I went to see him. He said, do you remember what Trabi was saying? He's a Trabi ally. He said, remember what Trabi say is now correct? Trabi say, you give them the independence with their political egos, they will kill themselves. They don't think about developing. It become an insult, honestly, to ourselves. But who is making this insult? It is our own political elites. The culture of rigidity, the culture everybody is contributed for the independence of this country. There's nobody who can take a sole responsibility. Without me, this country is not a country, or without us, this country is not a country. Without our voice and without our opinion, we believe we are my friend, everybody struggle. Even those who sit in refugee camp, in the IDP camps, it's a struggle by itself. Do you remember the hardships they're facing there? And part of their being there have raised an international attention that take the issue to international agenda. So everybody contributed. Unfortunately, we have a class of political elites that is proving what the Arabs used to say: give South Sudanese independence. They will not have time to govern themselves. They will kill themselves. They will loot each other, and they will not have the chance to build a state they want. And it's proven to be true. The way how we conduct ourselves with our political attitudes, it is shameful, as if we have never gone to school, as if we are in ancient stone age at the current level of the world, the century we're in with technology, where dialogues are not an option. It's really simple position when you see the burning of houses, the death of innocent children and elderly. They lose their lives. Some of them even are saying, is my vote for independence a curse? Should I avoid voting for independence? Which, of course, we can't regret, but we say we have a very selfish political elite class right now. Wherever they are, they're selfish. They don't care about the nation. They care about their powers. They care about access to power rather than really building the state. And this is the reality. We have to tell every politician that part of your contribution is what is making our citizens now losing their lives. So it's a shameful position. It's a clear function of political egos that we have seen. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Edmund. Yeah, you are truly right, because it is very sad indeed to see people are dying every day in South Sudan, and the political leaders seem like are playing a negative role on it, and they don't care about the life of innocent children, women, and elderly. This is a very sad moment in our country. And I don't know, the government is supposed to be a government for the people, by the people, and they are not doing to bring peace and insecurity in the place where there is a problem going on. And hopefully, the government should put the issues of Bia and Ngok and as a top priority to bring these issues to an end. Thank you. Let me give this chance, Tash. You are there in Clubhouse. You want to ask your question, please. I would like you to ask your question regarding about the topic that we will discuss. I don't want you to bring to us something that is not relevant what we are discussing. So I will give this a chance to you to ask your question. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madid. But I'm going to ask within the topic, and then I'm going to go out of the topic too, because it's a matter of concern too.
Yeah.
So I want to ask Edmund Yakani, what are the unified forces is only to guide the president and the vice president and then the other people, or I thought that the unified forces are to take care of civilian security and what, because what is happening now, even though we have a unified force, nothing in security is improving, it's even coming worse. Even the unified forces are even coming like, you see what is happening in Kondokoro, people go and then they say to go for disarmament, and then they go and then take the civilian property and then looting, and then what is the purpose of unified forces if they are doing like this one? Why we continue with these unified forces? The second thing is also, Edmund Yakani, I'm asking you, what is happening with why we never disarm these cattle herders who are moving around Equatoria? For example, the day before yesterday, they burned the house in Torre, which is in the side of in Yei, and then they burned the house of the sheep in Torre, and then they are causing havoc there, and also in Maridi they are causing havoc there. Why you never push for disarmament of these cattle herders who are roaming around Equatoria, who are causing insecurity in Equatoria? And then the third thing is, you say these people who are being appointed as election commission is not going to wear their t-shirts. How do you trust them? Because I know the chairman is from IG, the deputy is from IO, the other one is SOA. It should not matter wearing a t-shirt, even though if they never wear t-shirt, still they are aligned to their party. Why you never pushed for the president to appoint an independent body that can supervise the election instead of appointing IG, IO, and then the other parties? Because it means that this election is not going to be an election of true, because it's not the independent body. It's only the people who have been appointed are aligned to their parties. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Taj. Yeah, go ahead, Edmund, answer his questions.
Yeah, thank you, my brother. Of course, we're in the spirit of a dialogue. He's not fighting. He's seeking for truth and to push for solutions, which, of course, as I say, dialogue is the best way. First, let me start with the issue of the NEC members. It is by the virtue of the law, it's by the virtue of the agreement that reconstitution of the institutions are under the concept of responsibility sharing, where you have percentages given. You can't really avoid that, because if it goes against that, the party will shout is a violation of the agreement. Okay? And good enough that they are able to express their interest. And I think from my side is that my mistrust will be on them, my lack of confidence will be on them if they start exercising their mandates. Specifically for me as a civil society, I told them very clear, we're going to observe them in every single activity they are doing as a members of the Electoral Commission. So even if they told us they're not going to wear a t-shirt, we told them very clear, we're going to watch at you. How many of you are meeting their political parties leaders in secrets? And in South Sudan, there's nothing in hiding. We can track it down. So for me, still my mistrust and lack of confidence will come when they start exercising their roles and responsibilities in administering the electoral process. It's good they come out openly, they mention that. But the way how they appointed, it is by the virtue of the agreement arrangement and by the virtue of the law which was passed by the members that comes from these political parties. So the law have not called for independent establishment of a commission. At the same time, the concept of responsibility sharing is involved in the reconstitution of this institution. So that's the agreement. What do you do? And good enough that at least there's an opportunity from the parties by saying, we're not going to wear a t-shirt, we're not going to belong to our parties. But of course, we told them we are going to observe. And I'm sharing with my colleagues here, I'm issuing 2-second report on domestic observation. We issue number 1, we say, let them not politicize the institutions. Right now, we're issuing a statement where we have watched some of them, and we're going to name them in our report. And I wish that the person who asked the question can access the report and see how much we have tried to portray that we are watching at them. They're not free. That's one thing that I'd like to answer his question, that my mistrust and lack of confidence will be when they start exercising their mandate and they start doing things that are contrary to their oath, that's why I would really hammer them, and I will not compromise with them. That's one thing I'll let you know. Still up to now, as they don't exercise the mandate, I don't mistrust them or lack of confidence, but we're going to follow it up. As I said, we're human beings. We may pay allegiance to our parties at last minute when we are working towards the elections. That's likely very high, but we have to remind them that they have
Okay. The network is froze, guys. Give him a second to reconnect it. Edmund, can you hear me? Okay. I try to check your network connection, Edmund. It seems like your network is a little bit. And for those of you who are down there, if you want, I'm about for the next 8 minutes. I'm gonna be in this studio because we are run out of time. Let me wait for him to reconnect it. His networks have issues. Edmund, try to connect your advice. It's not connected. Okay, Edmund, can you hear me? Edmund, can you hear me? I seem check your connection. It seems like you are not your mic is not connected with camera. Okay, guy, bear with me. Let them connect it with this with his phone very quick. So he's having a network issues. Okay, while I'm waiting for him, let us do I remember with a few minutes so I can close down the
And do the gin and walk a jungle, walk a tree, get it on the woman. And do the gin and be my earth, the walk it on the woman. Need the tip when I get, I knew you think with your life. My when I get the rump, I knew you think with your life. And do the gin and walk a jungle, walk a tree, get it on the woman. And do the gin and be my earth. The walk it on the one man. Danny, you go to school. You know the I mean, they my joke, the Julia. Without me, the thing, I can't come with your mind. Don't me, get on the boy. The last thing you buy, I wait to buy you on. The yard you buy in Mount Carrier. Danny, you go to school. The reading of the joke, the garden. I mean, the my joke, the Julia. Without me, the thing, I can't come with your mind. Don't me, get on the boy. The last thing you buy, I wait to buy you on. The yard you buy in Mount Carrier.
Okay, so while we are waiting for Edmund to come back, it seemed like he's still connected. He will come back. I sent him a message still. Meanwhile, while we're waiting for him, Gigi, do you want to say something while I'm waiting for Edmund to come back, or you have a question to him? Gilam, can you hear me?
Thank you, Brother Madid and South Sudan's Eager Media. And I asking God to keep the platform to exist and to keep the blessing as you do every day.
Thank you.
As you asking me if I have a question, but we are waiting for Brother Edmund to bless us. I'm not sure if I have a question because I haven't seen the topic at the moment, Brother Mode. If you can remind me what the purpose of us today to be here.
Okay.
Give me, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Brother Gilam. Actually, we are talking regarding about it's about the topic. Bear in mind, we talk about the political issues going on in South Sudan. We are talking about the election. We are talking about the communal fight, violence going on between Abia and Twitch, and between Nuer and Abia, and also communal fight between and part of the other part. So, and Western Baghdad, all the issues that going on around in South Sudan, that we touch base on those issues, and also election. We talk about the peace negotiation between the Hollout Group and the government that shipping from to Nairobi, Kenya. So our Inmun is back. So Inmun, can you hear me?
Yes. I can
Okay.
hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, sorry. The units got finished. I have to load again, and sorry for interruption. So
this is good. Yeah.
I apologize to the audience. I really disclaimer. Yeah. So if I can come back and answer the first question, then you can get some questions and we can wind up. One, with the question around the cattle herders being in the region of Equatoria and burning houses like in Torre, and the Torre community asked them to quit, and the return of the armed cattle herders to some part of Equatoria. I would like to tell my brother, I received these questions several times in this platform. And I'd like to say the latest what we did as an organization in particular is really creating a room of how can we mitigate that. And one of the events, we brought all the military in the region of Equatoria, where there's a tension between cattle herders and the farmers on the aspect of preventing cattle herders going to the farming communities with armed, because they are armed, like what happened in Torre is ammunitions. And these we did it. And we come with an action.
Yeah, we cannot, yeah, the connection is still bad, even we cannot hear you. It's cutting off. Seems like the network is really not. Okay, let me welcome Nuri. I think okay, Ilmu, can you hear me now? Sorry, guys, the Juba network is sometimes.
Yeah, the brother down here, Nuri, raise hand up. If you can just allow him.
Okay, Ilmu, can you hear me? Okay, while we're waiting, Google Pixel 8 Pro. Let us.
No, I was just greeting. I'm waiting to ask a question. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah,
and then let us wait for them to fix.
Yeah.
Okay, let us wait for them.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, let us wait for them to fix this network.
Belena, Sudana, Belena, Taban, Mintaman, Yarokuna. Charlie Chupayana, Belena, Mamurta, Sudan, Mujaja, Mafira, Dena. Yalna made in pain another puna. Belena, Taban, and Taman, Yarokuna. Charlie Chupayana, Belena, Mamurta, Sudan, Mujaja, Mafira, Dena. Yalna made in pain another puna. Belena, Taban, and Taman, Yarokuna. Charlie Chupayana, Belena, Mamurta, Sudan, Mujaja, Mafira, Dena. Yalna made in pain another puna. Ya chak Sudan ya kwana chitel kumbeleti umushakil kalbi mitenderta kalbi mitenderta. Ya chak Sudan ya kwana chitel kumbeleti umushakil kalbi mitenderta kalbi mitenderta. شعب سودان يا اخوانا شتلكم بلد فيه مشاكل قلبي 200 درجة 200 درجة قلبي 200 درجة أنا بكيت عشانكم يا سودان شتلكم يا جماعة شتلكم يا جماعة ربنا بيساعد أنا بكيت عشانكم يا سودان شتلكم يا جماعة شتلكم يا جماعة ربنا بيساعد Our beloved leading in Sudan, Lord our God, come and stop the dead, our land not comfort to the knees are finished because of war between us. Our children terminate among of other laws. Our beloved leading in Sudan, Lord our God, come and stop the dead, our land not comfort to the knees are finished because of war between us. Our children terminate among of other laws.
Edmund, try to connect your identify with your the mic and the camera. Cannot connect it.
You Sudanese, be careful, we all have problems. When will I be happy? And then be happy. When will I be happy? You Sudanese, be careful, we all have problems. When will I be happy? And then be happy. When will I be happy? I'm crying about you. Sudanese, be careful, my people who take care of my pride. God bless you. I'm crying about you. Sudanese, be careful, my people who take care of my pride. God bless you. Arzidamna jinubda yautu shaifinu alela jinubda fiyadana yalla 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 ya kwana di Sudan jadi kecawlena salam. Arzidamna jinubda yautu shaifinu alela jinubda fiyadana yalla 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 ya kwana di Sudan jadi kecawlena salam. سيبوا مشاكل بيناتكم هاي من زمان في جنوبنا في ناس كتير بموت سنبلة عليه لما في حيثل بموت سنبلة السودان سلام يجمل قلوبنا ما دايرين تبرغا دمنا واحد وربنا واحد ما في قبلية بيننا سيبوا مشاكل بيناتكم هاي من زمان في جنوبنا في ناس كتير بموت سنبلة عليه لما في حيثل بموت سنبلة السودان سلام يجمل قلوبنا ما دايرين تبرغا
Okay. Meanwhile, while we're waiting for Edmund, he's giving the network over there is not participate well with him. He tried to keep connected, but it's failing. So let him give him. I sent him a message so that we can call it a day, but he didn't respond yet. He's struggling to come back. Let me see if we can give him more time, about 2 to 3 minutes. If not, we will end the show. So I don't want to end the show while he's not. He's tried to add more data on his phone. So let's give him a few minutes. Let me see if I can pull up any music up here in the studio.
We Santo Man Kolnyang.
Okay, so let's see here. So okay guys, I will end the show so we have more show coming up on the weekend, and we will bring him up back him again. So this time is late over there in Juba. Maybe the network is sleeping too. Let me see. Those of you in Clubhouse and those of you who are watching YouTube and Facebook, my apology guys. So network sometime in Juba is challenging, and that's why we want our country to be peaceful so that these network issues can be fixed. And thank you for watching. I will end the show here. For those of you who have more questions for never mind, he's back. Edmund, try to connect your device with your microphone with camera so that they can, I can bring you up. I see you came in the lobby, but I cannot. Your connection, you need to connect your microphone with the camera. So you try to come, guys. So while we're waiting for him, so let me play more music. So I just want to check. So he's coming. Okay, Edmund, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you, Brother Madid.
Okay. Yeah, I'm talking to Edmund.
Yes. Hello?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, hello, yes.
Yes. What I will do is I will keep my video off for a while because I feel it consumes a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Is it allowed? Can
That's okay. Yeah, go ahead.
I just seek that assist? Okay. Yeah, if I'm clear and loud at your end, let me continue answering the questions.
Yeah, go ahead, answer the question. Yeah, and I have one more question coming to in Clubhouse. So go ahead, answer it. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
So let me, if I'm clear at the end there, am I clear? Are you hearing me?
Yes, we can hear you. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you. So my answer to the questions is that, one, in regard to the issue of the cattle herders, what we're doing now, our best from our side, is to really identify the actual cattle herders and, yeah, I can hear you. Yeah. So in case of the cattle herders, the question around the cattle herders, our answer is that we're trying to identify the actual owners of the cattle so that we can approach them and we can put their name to the public domain, because already there's an action plan we have reached with the units of the army to prevent these armed cattle herders getting the people. They are not really the actual problem. Problems are actual owners of the cattle. So that's my answer to my brother. We are struggling. We have been calling it of our different levels of governments, and even the governments of the states where these cattle herders are coming from. We've been engaging them, being it Jongole or being it Terekeka in Central Equatoria, we've been engaging them. With Gondokoro, as we speak, we've been advocating for Gondokoro for long. Right now, citizens have launched an independent investigation for Gondokoro crisis, and citizens may issue a report, and that one we've been working on really making sure that military justice is
Edmund, if you can hear me, the network is really cutting.
The soldiers who are involved in the abuse accountable, because we have a case that where military justice as such perpetrators accountable, and some of them are now in trial, and they did the same thing in Melekal and in Bentiu. So I've been advocating for that. There's efforts we're going towards that, but of course, maybe reporting is a problem, or maybe the results is not meeting all expectations, but we're stopping and we are engaging. We're stepping on that and we're engaging, and we're trying to make sure that accountability prevail. Unification, of course, unification is not only to prevent the principles. And in my meeting with the principal, if I want to ask this guy, my brother, is that I told the principal very clear,
Unmute yourself, Edmund. Edmund, can you hear me? Can you unmute yourself? Unmute again. There you go.
And for our forces to act responsibly. And for
okay, thank you, Edmund. I think we are having a network issues over there. Your voice is breaking down. I don't know if we can reschedule it again for another day, because I have two people up here who want to ask you a question, but it seems like the network over there is really, you could not be able for us to continue with the more questioning. So can you hear me okay, Edmund, or not? If I can take one more question from Clubhouse. Edmund, can you hear me? Try to open your mic. Okay, so my apology, Nuri, can you save your question for next time? So we will, I will try to arrange another show, and Gilam too, so we will bring him back maybe sometime tomorrow or on the weekend. So the network over there now is not it's not good. So let him go, and we can bring him back tomorrow. Save your question for him for next time, okay? So thank you guys. For those of you watching in
thank you, brother. Before you go, we do apologize. The network is not your fault. Could you
Thank you for those of you watching in Facebook or YouTube. My apology for network center in Juba is daily. We will schedule it for another time.
Or they can say goodbye.
So thank you.
William in Juba, Malatori, hey, I'm you, Ping William in Benti, Walla Quatu, hey, wow, Ping William in Malkal, Walla Pinaram, Ping William.